This is the final video of the final class of our year. If you weren't in class today, please view this and send me via email the answers to these questions. Thanks so much. Um, so this is Keshet's comic for that pretty cool part of the Torah where God says, "Let me be," and Moses thinks to himself, "Let me be so I can destroy everyone." And Moses thinking, wait a second, God just said, let me be so I can destroy everyone. For some reason, God's destruction of the people has something to do with my not being here. And by being here, I am in some way deterring this or making this not happen. And that in itself gives Moses the opportunity or option to go ahead and fight for the Jewish people by giving them not one, not two, but three different, giving God three different reasons why God should not destroy the people. Um, so, my first question is in this picture of according to the next part of what we read in that midrash, we have a tugger and the tugged one saying, leave me alone. Who is the tugger? Is it Moshe or God? Who is the tugged one saying, leave me alone? So that's questions 1 and question 2. We then went ahead as a class and looked and asked the question of what did we find in the golden calf? So this was really part of your Ed puzzle homework of did we find things that were similar between the golden calf story and the Korach story? What made the golden calf story what were the components that might make the golden calf story a machloket she'eno l'shem shamayim? Because really, remember, what we're trying to do is we're trying to ask the question, well, I know that the story of Korach was labeled machloket she'eno l'shem shamayim, but what about the golden calf story? Shouldn't that be also named? And if it's not named, does that mean it is not a machloket she'eno l'shem shamayim? Or it was just not the the greatest example of that happening. And I'll tell you, in class, people came up with some really interesting ideas. So first of all, for your question number 3, give some of the ideas that you figured out in when you were doing your Ed puzzle homework. And what the class came up with was really interesting. The class said that there was there was some kind of emotional element that caused the rebellion. In our case, it was in the golden calf case, it was fear and potentially anger that Moses hadn't returned. In the Korach story, it was that they were really angry at Moshe and they thought there was kind of an abuse of power. Um, I think Eric brought up in class this idea of there being an abuse of truth of God, but a distortion of that truth, saying the cow is God, right? In the same way that they called the land of milk and honey Egypt and not Israel, a distortion of the truth. Um, some people thought there was bringing God into the argument when they say allow us to be like or allow us to make a god. Other people talked about, yeah, there wasn't really a possibility of a solution, that Aaron didn't go ahead and say, well, here's a possible solution that could work instead of resorting to this, that Aaron immediately went for the golden calf. And a lot of the class then was thinking to themselves, wow, you know what? I would actually wish there was a trial, and I wish that I could put Aaron on trial for the golden calf because it seems like he is totally to blame. Then we also brought up the Midrash and said, well, maybe he's not to blame. Maybe he felt a tremendous amount of pressure. Maybe he was because Hor, his kind of co-person in charge, had already been killed by, according to the Midrash, and that he was actually just doing delay tactics. But then they also pointed out, well, actually, Aaron doesn't come clean when Moses asks him what happened. He never says, I did wrong. He never confesses at all, and they didn't like that much. Um, then we asked the question, where would the golden calf incident fit on the continuum that we talked about in the very beginning of the year, from l'shem shamayim, machloket l'shem shamayim, or a machloket she'eno l'shem shamayim, and where would you place it? And we had some people had so I know one person kind of came up to the and said it's kind of like right here. It's not here, but it's something about here. Then we had actually two people come up and said, actually, no, it actually is not. It actually is a machloket l'shem shamayim. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Where do you think it should be, and why? So that's your question number 5A and 5B. Where do you think it should be, and why? Where would you place it on this continuum? Um, then we talked about Moses using certain strategies to calm God down. And these are kind of interesting strategies that we could also use for arguing and for convincing others. So what were the strategies that that Moses used? So I'd like you to look at these three, and so call that one number 6, call this one number 7, and this one number 8, and kind of say, in general, what is what is Moshe's approach? And so here's what we came up with this class. Number 1 is basically Moses saying, are you sure you want to ruin all this, all the effort you put into building this enterprise, this people? Number 2 is think about how this is going to look. And then number 3 is this actually consistent with who you are, God? Is this consistent with your past actions and past promises? And so then I asked this question: what might these strategies have looked like if Moshe had used them in the showdown between Korach and him, right? So let's try number 1. How would Moses have used that? 9. Number 10. How would Moses have used this? So I'm asking you really to put actually words in Moses's mouth here that he's going to say to Korach using this idea. Words to say for number 10 and number 11. All right. And then this larger question, which I find fascinating, is if Moshe has these strategies in place and we know that they were effective here, why doesn't Moses use those strategies for quelling the machloket in the Korach case? And we came up with a whole bunch of answers to that. One which I really loved was actually I think Eitan said this, that actually Moses isn't totally successful here. Like, Moses leaves thinking these strategies did not completely 100% work. There's still a plague afterwards. There's still people that are upset. There's still something going on that doesn't seem to exactly work. Okay, and now we have some general questions to end the course. So question number 14 um, is what is the point of this course in general? Like, what was it actually about? Question number 15 is why, or who cares? Why is that actually important at all? And then question number 16, are there any surprises? Any surprises you had? Anything you thought about when you went into a course that really asked the question, what does Judaism think about arguing and rebelling and being contrary, right? Any surprises that you thought of there? All right, and now a little bit about the final itself. The final is going to take place on Monday during reading day. It's at 1:45 to 2:45. There's 50 percenters will finish at can extend and finish at 3:15. 100% extenders can finish at 3:45. So okay, so I hope that I'll see you there, and I think you'll be able to finish before your ride home comes. If this is at all a problem, please let me know. Okay, so on the final itself, what are you going to find? That there's going to be 10% vocabulary. This is all the vocabulary we've used during the year. You're going for 40%. You're going to have to tell the story of God and Machloket in the early narratives of the Torah. And you're going to be able to have to answer these 3 questions, and that's 10% each for each of those answers. And then there are going to be 5 questions from your graphic organizer packet, and that's worth 20 points. Since I did not give, if you're watching this and have never actually been to class, and you don't have those graphic organizer packets, your grade will not be dependent on this, and the percentage of the other stuff will go up. I want to just explain to you how I'm going to offer some help. On my TVT, on the place where I normally place videos for the class, you'll see that there will be a link to a couple different helpful sites. One is a place where I go over all the vocabulary right here. Another will be a video where I try to kind of give my answer to this, where I try to tell the story of God and Machloket in the early narratives of the Torah. And then the third is that I'll try to answer these questions as well in a video number 3. So that's it. If I'm also willing, if anyone needs it, on Sunday night from 5 to 7 to offer Zoom hours for anyone who wants to check in with me. But you just have to let me know that so I can arrange my schedule on Friday. So 5 to 7, I will offer some Zoom hours to anyone who needs it. Great. So I look forward to getting those answers to the 16 or so questions via email. Thank you so much.